Another new development in the fallout from the Capitol riot, Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California, who served as an impeachment manager against the former president, has filed a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit against Trump, the second of its kind since the insurrection. The suit accuses the former president, his son Don Jr., Rudy Giuliani, and Republican Congressman Mo Brooks of Alabama of violating federal civil rights laws and local incitement laws with their speeches at a rally near the White House on the morning of January 6th. It alleges the Capitol attack was, quote, a direct and foreseeable consequence of the defendant's false and incendiary allegations of fraud and theft, and in direct response to the defendant's express calls for violence. I had a chance to speak with Swalwell's attorney, Phil Andonian, last night on The Last Word.
The managers put on a master class in marshaling all of the evidence, and there should have been a conviction because Trump was in office and had, in his personal capacity for his own personal reasons, had gone way beyond the bounds of the office. This is another venue for getting the relief that the American people deserve. It happens to be the only venue right now because the Senate punted and because there hasn't been accountability.
The lawsuit comes following testimony this week questioning the time frame of the National Guard response to the Capitol on January 6th. The D.C. National Guard chief telling lawmakers it took the Pentagon 3 hours to greenlight troops that were ready to go while the Capitol was under attack. The commander, Major General William J. Walker, also said that military leaders, including the brother of ex-Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, advised at one point during the afternoon that deploying troops would not be good optics. Let's bring in Yamiche Alcindor, White House correspondent for PBS NewsHour and an MSNBC political analyst. Also with me is Joyce Vance, a former U.S. attorney in Alabama and an MSNBC contributor. Good morning to both of you. Great to see you. Joyce, let me start with this civil suit. I was speaking to Eric Swalwell's lawyer last night. This is the second civil suit. Something that Mitch McConnell said at the end of the impeachment was that no one's above the law, including the former president, and there are ways in which he can be held to account. So I assume these civil suits are ways in which Trump and others can be held to account. What is the likelihood of them succeeding, and what's the difference between that, a normal trial, and what happened in the White House, in the Senate, I'm sorry?
Yeah, sure. So these civil cases are a very interesting aspect of the search for accountability. We've seen the flawed impeachment procedure, which failed to hold the president accountable despite overwhelming evidence. We're looking at a criminal process, criminal investigations ongoing. Too early to conclude whether that will ultimately reach former President Trump or his inner circle. These civil cases, though, are a direct and potentially more quick route for the American people to gain the truth. Representative Swalwell's complaint is particularly interesting because it raises claims under both the Ku Klux Klan Act, which of course talks about interference with Congress's performance of its official duties, but also files suit in his individual capacity, arguing tortious interference and interference with his well-being and the well-being of others. Only one of the claims in this complaint has to survive a motion to dismiss, an early preliminary motion that the defendants will file in order to begin the discovery process. And that's part of the legal proceedings in a civil case where a litigant like Representative Swalwell has the ability to take depositions, to ask for documents, where there's actually an obligation that the defendants respond under oath. So this could get interesting relatively quickly. It's too early, I think, to assess whether the suit has a chance of success on the merits.
Yamiche, Major General William Walker, the commander of the D.C. National Guard, said a lot of very interesting things this week, that he was not able to get permission. And in fact, the day before January 6th, he was explicitly told that he would need to have a request to help out at the Capitol be approved by the Secretary of Defense. He said that's very unusual. That would not normally be how things operate. So there's a sense that something else developed almost in preparation for these demonstrations.
That's right. And what we learned this week was that there was a 3-hour delay from when the National Guard was needed and requested to when they were actually given the opportunity to go and respond. And what the big question, of course, is who is making these decisions? From our understanding, it was coming from the Department of Defense, but the Department of Defense also, of course, answers straight to the White House. There was this feeling on January 6th while I was standing on the lawn talking to sources, there was this feeling that President Trump, while he was, of course, hoping that no one got killed, at least from my sources, that's what they were telling me, he was also in some ways looking at these people and saying, these are my people. They're doing what I was telling them to do. And in some ways, he was basking in the idea that his loss created this chaos, a chaos that he didn't have to live with because he was at the White House with me, surrounded by this safety bubble. So what you see here in these lawsuits, what you see here in the information that we're learning is that there is obviously more that we need to know about January 6th. We need to know exactly who was making these decisions. When did the president of the United States at the time, former President Trump, when did he actually get on the phone and start authorizing help and started authorizing the National Guard? Also, who made a decision to change the protocol for how the National Guard could respond? I think all of these get us really into this idea that there's a straight line, it seems, from President Trump to many of these decisions. And I think the question is, are we going to actually be able to draw that line, or is it going to still be something that's murky and that we're not going to understand? But I think these lawsuits are in some ways trying to get at that. And as you noted, former Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, now Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, he said that the president was responsible for this. So there is a real feeling in this country that the president needs to be held responsible.
So, and Joyce, the accountability or even the punitive stuff about it might excite some people, but the bottom line is there's a larger issue here, and that is the role, the power, and the threat coming from domestic terror organizations, something that would be really convenient to have